From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Our conversations with the 2022 Rhode Island gubernatorial candidates continue this week. Ashley Kalus, the leading Republican candidate for governor, operated a business that provided COVID testing and vaccinations in Rhode Island. This is her first run for elected office, but in 2014 worked for a then Republican governor of Illinois. Kalus moved to Rhode Island last year and announced her run in March. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi. Our guest this week, Republican gubernatorial candidate Ashley Kalus. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
In 60 seconds or less, why do you want to be governor?
You know, Rhode Island needs a fighter now more than ever. COVID brought front and center the haves and the have-nots, and every day it gets harder for working families. We're getting killed at the pumps. Food prices are soaring. It costs more to heat our homes. And the cost of home ownership is so far out of reach for many. You know, as a mom of 3 school-age boys, I understand the struggles. And for me, I'm a problem solver. I saw directly through administering COVID vaccines and testing how government does not work for the people. And I'm all about holding people accountable and getting things done. I believe in standards, key performance indicators, and benchmarks. And that's what I'll do as governor. I will hold people accountable and get things done.
Let's address the future attack ads against you. You bought a house in Newport last year. You registered to vote in January. You have never lived in Rhode Island. Your opponents will undoubtedly label you a carpetbagger who has no connection to the state nor its people. Why should anyone think differently?
What people don't know is that my husband was here for 8 years training at Brown in surgery and then was at Hasbro Hospital and Rhode Island Hospital. Comedy Plast, which is our nonprofit, was started here and has completed 15 missions to Peru to help children with cleft lips and palates and craniofacial anomalies. We're hoping to start again this year. We had to pause during COVID. We were engaged in Providence in 2008. We hoped to start our life here, but we couldn't afford to. We had $250,000 in student loans and we just couldn't make it.
But at a certain point you could. I mean, you bought a multi-million-dollar home in Florida, you bought a multi-million-dollar home in Illinois. Why not have built those homes or bought those homes in Rhode Island at that time?
We're back, and I'm really happy to be back in Rhode Island as soon as we were able to. You know, my kids, I always wanted them to grow up here, and they're at the age where they can do that now.
Had you considered ever running in another state? I mean, you chose Rhode Island. Could you have run in Florida? Could you have run in Illinois?
I never considered running for anything. I was not intending to run for governor. But I wanted to make a difference, and I care deeply about Rhode Island.
Why did you decide, you've talked about the lack of business opportunity here.
Yeah.
Your husband started his practice that I know you helped to run out in Illinois. You know, he specializes in plastic surgery. Obviously, that's something that happens in all 50 states. Why did you see an opportunity in Illinois that you didn't see in Rhode Island at the time?
Yeah, so this is a really small market. My husband was a craniofacial surgeon. Cleft lips and palates and Medicaid reimbursements are very low. We just didn't think we could make it, especially with the business environment. And Chicago had more opportunity, and we needed to try to make it.
I also wanted to ask you, you come out of the business world, and as Tim mentioned in the open, you ran a company that provided testing and vaccination services in Rhode Island, but other states as well. You were operating in multiple states, doctors' test centers. You founded that in March 2020, right as the pandemic began. You'd been running the plastic surgery practice, so this was a new business to get into. Can you talk about kind of what you saw in March 2020, you and your husband perhaps, that led you to start the business at that time?
We wanted to help. And so the best way for us to help is we ran large-scale healthcare operations at high volumes, and we wanted to use that skill set to be able to help in the response. And so that's what we did. We didn't anticipate it getting so big or doing so much, but we were happy to do that. That's what service is. And I believe that we have done a lot for multiple different communities, and especially Rhode Island.
Is Doctors Test Center still operating now in some states, or has it wound down?
It's winding down, but it is still operating in some states.
I want to talk about Doctors Test Centers. Ted and our colleague Eli Sherman filed a story this week that that company, your company, won a state contract, as Ted said, valued at nearly $8 million, to conduct these COVID tests and vaccinations. That contract ended so acrimoniously that a police officer wound up filing a report on the dispute between you and the state, and the two sides threatened each other with legal action. First, I'm wondering if you're still considering on taking the Rhode Island Department of Health to court.
So I'd like to start by saying I'm really proud of our DTC employees and the work that they've done in the COVID response. They helped make Rhode Island the most vaccinated state in the country. And our concern has always been protecting the safety of the tens of thousands of patients that we've treated. At the end of the day, we had 12 test sites and 2 mass vaccination sites, and we administered over 400,000 tests and 30,000 vaccines.
You raised some serious allegations, though, towards the end of the relationship with Rhode Island, and again, you said you were going to sue the state. Are you still considering that?
So DOH needs an overhaul. The leadership has they've left. The director's gone, the deputy director is gone, and the head of testing is gone. I have always been concerned about quality of care and patient safety, and I will call out waste, fraud, and abuse wherever I see it.
So what did you do about it at the time, then?
So I have fought for my patients, and I will continue to fight for Rhode Island.
So was that bluster then at the time when you said you were going to sue the state? It sounds like the answer is no. You haven't answered my question, but it sounds like you're leaning toward no, you're not considering suing the state.
My concern has always been making sure that Rhode Islanders are safe, and patient safety, if you're a healthcare provider, is something that you fight really hard for. Listen, the insiders are afraid of my candidacy. I am a threat, and we've heard from Democrats and Republicans that this campaign is threatening. It's threatening the status quo, which needs to happen. I came from nothing. I've built everything that I have myself with my husband, and I will fight for Rhode Island.
Let me just stick with DTC for a second here. Westerly Police Chief and then Lieutenant Paul Gingerella, in his police report, was concerned with how DTC leadership and your lawyer treated him. Your campaign has already talked about respecting the police and law enforcement. Do you regret that interaction that took place? So
what happened is our testing contract ended on the 31st of January, and we submitted to leave on the 15th, despite concerns that the new vendor did not have the qualifications or credentials required to take over the site. What ended up happening is the clinic ended at 3 and the new vendor came in at 4. To close the site in a responsible manner, to transition a site, a lot of activities need to happen. You need to secure patient records and move them out. You need to decontaminate the entire site. You need to close clinical activities. We have a responsibility to patients. You need to inventory supplies and equipment. So closing a site takes time. Traditionally, a vendor would close one day and the next vendor does not come in until the next day. Imagine signing a lease for the 1st but deciding that you're going to show up on the 31st. It causes confusion.
It sounded like it got ugly, though. Would you agree with that?
It caused confusion. If you show up a day early, it's confusing for everybody.
All right, let's turn to some of the big issues at the state level. You want to be governor, and you put out a news release this week where you decried the newly announced Superman building deal as corporate welfare. Obviously, that building's been empty 9 years, and there's really only 3 options: renovate it, demolish it, or just kind of leave it empty and decaying as it has been. What do you think should happen to the Superman building? So
I love the Superman building. I don't want it to disappear from our skyline. My engagement photos have it in the background. I want my kids to see the engagement photos when I'm very old and still see it there in the skyline. But we can't have insiders trade our sentimentality and do that in order to rip the state off. We just can't do that. It is $65 million in corporate welfare for only 14 truly affordable housing units. There are also questions about parking that remain unanswered, and the tax treaty. So I think that there are a lot of questions. And the reality is that we're not competitive. If we were competitive, then we wouldn't have to, then the building wouldn't have sat vacant for 9 years. We would have somebody develop it. So we need to create the environment in which somebody would develop the building. We should not have to bribe a business to do it. We should not participate in a bailout of the developer.
At the same time, you know, the developer has been clear. He says that the numbers do not work without some kind of public subsidy. How much, I grant, is definitely up for debate. You know, if you came in, would you be open to a different deal with him? Or do you think that's bluster and the state should sit back, let it stay empty as long as it takes for him to, I don't know, give in, sell, or what you think would happen?
I think a leader's job is to make sure that they get a good deal done for the taxpayers. So I think finding a deal that works, that provides value to the taxpayers is something that we should be able to do. I don't think that this deal does that. If it doesn't work for him and it doesn't work for the taxpayers, or this one works for him, but if it's not good for the people of Rhode Island and it puts Providence at risk, we shouldn't do it. We should work out a better deal.
We often do this with new candidates that come on the show. I want to do a rapid fire section. I'm looking for 1 or 2 word answers on this.
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah.
You'll see. Do you support or oppose legalized recreational marijuana?
I support it. It's about being competitive regionally.
Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I am personally pro-life.
Do you support or oppose any laws restricting high-capacity magazines or assault-style rifles?
I support the Second Amendment, and I think that the laws we have on the books are sufficient.
Okay. Do you support or oppose so-called right-to-work laws?
I think that we need to be more competitive.
These are laws that restrict the ability for unions to organize, including making dues optional in workplaces that are unionized. Would you support or oppose that law?
I would have to see the law. Is there a specific one going through?
It's a pretty common law that is debated nationwide.
Yeah.
All right. We'll move on. Letter grade for Governor Dan McKee's performance, A through F. Think like a school teacher.
I mean, I'm kind of a hard grader. I don't like giving anybody an F, but why do you think I'm running for governor, right?
All right, good. Fair. And got to ask you, what do you like better, Dells or Mr. Lemon?
Dells. Yeah.
All right, I want to ask you about, you were talking about the Superman building deal, and it happens we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of the 38 Studios deal, which went through under a previous Republican governor, Don Carcieri. You know, when you look back and you think about becoming governor, what lessons do you take away from 38 Studios?
To not make decisions that are fiscally irresponsible, to not get tied up in a deal that's so bad that you can't get out of it. That was incredibly embarrassing, and it really made it so that it took away from the credibility of the government to do programs that could help with economic development. So I think we need to be mindful of the deals that we create because it has impacts long term. We're still talking about it, right?
Have you spoken to Governor Carcieri? He was the last Republican to be elected governor?
Not yet. I look forward to doing so.
How about Link Almond or Ed Dupree, the other two who are living?
I look forward to doing that as well.
All right, our guest this week is Ashley Kalus. She is the Republican candidate for governor. When we come back, her vision for Rhode Island schools. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi. Our guest this week is Ashley Kalus. She's a Republican candidate for governor here in Rhode Island. You have said you want to be the education governor. What is the number one thing you would like to see changed in the state's K through 12 public education system?
So I will be the education governor. It's deeply personal to me. I was a failing student, a terrible student in high school. But for a Department of Education official's decision to allow me to attend college for high school, I probably would have not graduated from high school. So that version of school choice likely saved my future. In Rhode Island, we need to decide that we're going to be first in the nation for education. It's not that difficult of a decision to make. We just need to look at other places where it's worked. So we should look to Massachusetts, and not just because it's Massachusetts, but because it is the national model of education reform, and it also is the model of a turnaround, which is what we need here. We need to have high standards and pay our teachers more. We need to level the playing field and close gaps. We need to ensure that every child has the right, regardless of their zip code, has the right to a quality education, and this should be a constitutional right. At the same time, we need to be flexible because one size does not fit all.
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds really good. Like, parents listening at home are like, yeah, I agree with that. We need a really good school system. But, you know, back to the original question, is there one thing that you'd want to sink your teeth into that would change the Rhode Island school system, a policy, how it operates, anything?
I think I gave a few different ones, right, in terms of having high standards, right, and paying teachers more, making sure that we close gaps that were created during COVID. The only way to make up time is with more time.
So, you know, you say paying teachers more. Many people think Rhode Island, the way it's structured, the funding formula relies too much on property taxes to fund education. Do you think we should increase state funding to public schools?
I think that we should now. We have an opportunity to do so, and I think we need to invest in our schools. You know, education is an economic issue. It is something that we need to do to be more competitive. It is the question of the next 50 years in terms of what we're going to do. If we invest in education, then companies will come here. People will be able to start businesses here, stay here, afford to live here, and then retire here.
There was a bill before the legislature in the last session that would have put a moratorium on the expansion of charter schools in Rhode Island. It failed the House, but it could be back. If you were governor and that bill reached your desk, would you sign it or veto it, capping the number of the expansion of charter schools in Rhode Island?
I think we need to look at all options in terms of education. What I can tell you is I do not believe that it is right to trap a child in a failing school. That's just not the right thing to do. And so I can tell parents that if your child is in a failing school, when I am governor, you will be able to pick a public school of your choice.
So you could bounce around. You live in Cranston, you could go to a public school in Barrington.
If your child is in a failing school, you should be able to select a public school of your choice.
Okay.
So not for if the school is performing okay, you stay in that school, but if the school falls below a certain metric, you'd be able to pick a different one?
We should look at Massachusetts. It had a model that was similar in terms of what a failing school is and how we define that. But yeah, you should be
Wouldn't everybody leave Providence then? I mean, there's so many failing schools in Providence that everybody would just be like vacating the city under that plan.
I don't think that would happen. We would have, you know, so you have school choice as a short-term solution, but you're not going to abandon our public schools. We're going to put more resources in a failing school so it can succeed. That is what we would need to do. So I don't think that the teachers are going to abandon that school, and not all families will do that, but we need to give families the choice about whether they would want to stay in that school. I don't believe that everybody would abandon that school. As a state, we would not abandon that school.
One more question on education. State Representative Patricia Morgan has introduced a bill, and it's drawn comparisons with Florida's new law on education. Morgan's bill would prohibit teaching about sexual preference or gender dysphoria and bar terms such as racial fragility in Rhode Island classrooms. Do you support or oppose Rep. Morgan's bill?
So look, I'd have to look specifically more at that bill, but I can say that the focus right now, because our children are struggling with reading, writing, and arithmetic, needs to be reading, writing, and arithmetic.
So when you look, you mentioned me last time we spoke that when I asked about a Republican governor you admired, you mentioned Ron DeSantis. Yeah. Do you think he made a mistake encouraging that bill, that the focus should have been on the 3 R's, as you just said?
So you're talking about his bill. So what his bill did is it just made it so that in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, we weren't going to have discussions that I believe should happen at home. I have 3 boys, and I want to be able to have certain discussions with them as a family, or decide when those discussions happen. It's kindergarten, first, second, and third grade.
I see. So you feel the Morgan bill would go too far compared to the Florida bill?
I was asked about the Florida bill, so specifically with the Florida bill, and you asked if I what I thought of that one. I think that having those conversations at home in those grades is something that I would appreciate as a parent, just to be able to define how we have those conversations as a family.
Ms. Kalus, as you know, the FBI is now investigating a controversial contract the McKee administration awarded to education consulting firm ILA Group, which received nearly $2 million to help reopen schools and was supposed to launch municipal learning centers, but the contract ended a little bit early. I am interested in your perspective as someone who has won a state contract. What do you make of how the ILO deal came together?
So what I can say is that I won my contract based on merit, unlike some of the recent contracts that were handed out. What do I think of that?
Yeah.
Handing out contracts not based on merit and ripping off the taxpayers, it's not good. It's terrible. You should win a contract and be able to keep one if you are the highest scorer and the lowest bidder. Rhode Islanders deserve to get value for their tax dollars.
Real quick, I am curious, ILO, as I said, was hired to consult and to do some school testing under COVID. You ran testing centers and had a testing contract. Did you ever have interactions with ILO Group?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I want to ask you about one of the problems you'd inherit if you became governor is the Eleanor Slater hospital system, which has been in the news now for years. By some estimates, it's costing now roughly $700,000 per patient to operate the Slater system. Do you think Governor McKee's proposal to fund a new Zambarano facility is money well spent?
Well, I think that's to help us with the funding problem that we have, that we would lose funding if we didn't split the hospital, right? So I think it's trying to correct something that is happening. That sounds like a lot of money. I've been in healthcare operations for a long time, and that sounds like a lot of money. I know that there are challenges with environment of care and other issues related to quality of care as well. And I think that we're sort of trying to get back on the right path. I always worry about the patients, right? But I know that splitting it is going to help with funding that was may have been lost.
The splitting it, I think, is about to have the psych hospital standalone in Cranston, but the new ZAM, you could keep the current ZAM, you could try to refashion what remains behind. Do you think putting the money the governor's proposed into the new ZAM is also needed?
I would look into it more. I can tell you with my experience in healthcare operations and delivery, I would be uniquely positioned to be able to make sure that it delivered value and was operated in a way that would be efficient.
But you're not sure whether the current plan is the right one?
It seems like we're on the right path, but that does seem expensive, so I'd want to dig into the numbers more.
Many in your party continue to make the demonstrably false claims that Donald Trump won the election and not President Biden. Do you think Biden won?
I believe it was a free and fair election, and I respect the results of the election. I believe it was a legitimate election.
Former President Trump is the face of the Republican Party, I think you could say, and some in your party like that, some don't. Where do you stand?
Listen, the Trump questions, I believe that they're a distraction. They're for clicks, and they drive traffic to websites, so I get it. But what I'd like to talk about is, if we're going to talk about a president, we should talk about the current president, which is President Biden. Under his watch, which is where we are now, gas prices had nearly doubled. Families are struggling. Rhode Islanders are struggling. We're on the brink of a recession, and people are going to see their hard-earned money and their 401ks and 529s just washed away. So we should be talking about the here and now and what Rhode Islanders are facing.
Let me ask you about taxes. Simple question. Do you think Rhode Island's current income tax rate is too high, too low, or the right level?
So we need to look at how we tax broadly. We need to look at all over in terms of how we're taxing, who we're taxing, and how. I think that it's important that we do that, and that would be the first thing that I do. It's an overall approach that we need to take.
But voters are going to want to know kind of where you start from.
Right.
Do you think the income, if it's all taxes, is sales tax too high, income?
But voters pay all those taxes, right? They pay some, if you own a house, you pay a property tax, you also pay an income tax, and you also pay sales taxes. So at the end of the day, as a working person, I care more about how much money I take home and how that's related is all of those taxes add up. So we need to look at them all together and make sure that we're competitive. And that
no, you said you think we're not competitive currently, you said.
Correct.
Right?
So that's why I think we need to look at them and find a way where we can lower taxes. Which one specifically would depend.
A fairly complicated question with just under a minute left. If you win, you might inherit the state takeover of Providence schools. Yeah. You know, around 30 seconds. You think the state should continue to operate in Providence and operate the schools, or no?
I do think so. And when we frame it as a takeover, you know, words matter. And I think that it should be seen as a partnership, because that's really what it needs to be. The state needs to work with the city to come together to fix the schools. So we need to work together to fix the schools. And I want the state to be viewed as a resource and as a partner in helping fix the schools.
All right. Ashley Kalus, Republican candidate for governor, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you missed any of it, it's on WPRI.com. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We will see you next week on Newsmakers.